Welcome to episode 195 of the Pharmacist Voice podcast. I'm the host, Kim Newlove. Today, I'm talking to Dr. Swathi Varanasi. She's an integrative health pharmacist, wellness entrepreneur, author, and speaker. If you're new to the Pharmacist Voice podcast, welcome. Again, my name is Kim Newlove, and I'm the host. I'm a pharmacist by training, but I'm not in clinical practice anymore. I made a career transition to voice actor and podcast host. I help clients get their point across in the medical space. Among other things, I narrate audiobooks for women pharmacist authors, provide medical narration to clients in the pharmaceutical, biotech, and continuing medical education industries, and I narrate content for explainer videos and e-learning projects. I was inspired by my nonverbal son, who has autism, to combine my background as a pharmacist with my speaking voice and launch my business, The Pharmacist Voice, in 2017. My son, Craig, helped me realize the power of having a voice and using it. My solo podcast episodes are about some aspect of being a pharmacist, a voice actor, a pharmacist podcaster, or my career transition from pharmacist to voice actor and podcast host. My interview shows feature a variety of people who use their voices to advocate for something, educate in some way, or entertain so that you are inspired to use your voice too. This is episode 195, and you can find the show notes on my website, thepharmacistvoice.com. Just click on the podcast tab and search for episode 195. Without further ado, here's my conversation with Dr. Swathi. Hi, Dr. Swathi. Welcome to the Pharmacist Voice podcast. How are you?
So good. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Happy New Year to you.
Yes, Happy New Year.
Yeah, when we first started setting this up, I had all kinds of things in mind that I wanted to talk about. And I also wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about anything that you want that has to do with the theme, New Year, New You. So as we go through all of these things, maybe there's New Year's resolutions you can challenge people to do or anything like that. I just want to throw that in there because, hey, it is a new year. Why not throw in a theme too? Okay?
Absolutely. I love that.
All right, cool. Well, my guests use their voices to advocate for something, educate in some way, or entertain, and you've got all the categories covered. So I would love to first talk about how you use your voice as an advocate. I know you as an integrative health and cannabis science and therapeutics pharmacist. So can you talk about your passions for that? How'd you get interested in all of this?
Yeah. So growing up, I was always around herbs from like an Ayurvedic standpoint. And so that was just somewhere like it was almost like the root of my interest. And then from there, knew that I wanted to do something in healthcare, but kind of put the whole Ayurveda, traditional Chinese medicine, that type of like natural version of healing, I kind of put it on the back burner and knew that I wanted to do something in healthcare. My mom is a nurse. My dad is an organic chemist. So I was kind of around a lot of, healthcare discussions and things like that growing up. And so when I started looking at different opportunities within healthcare, I was really drawn to pharmacy. I loved that there were pharmacists at, every pharmacy that you could walk into. And a lot of the pharmacists I knew were, pharmacy owners. So to me, that was entrepreneurship, that was forging your own path, creating something from scratch, or it was people in industry who were doing things like marketing. And so to me, being a pharmacist was so multifaceted. I actually I don't think I've talked about this on a podcast before, but I didn't even know when I started pharmacy school that there were pharmacists in the hospital. To me, it was something where you could just be innovative and do something completely different, whether it's starting your own branch or your own independent pharmacy, doing something in, marketing or sales, or also being the pharmacist that can answer all patient questions. So once I got to pharmacy school, I really saw that it was true, that everything that I had heard, all these possibilities were, a possibility for something that I could do. However, the curriculum was very focused on particular paths, and I was just determined to learn as much as I can. And I always viewed being a pharmacist as a tool that I could put in my toolbox. And like, whether it's critical thinking skills, whether it's, patient interaction, whether it's, overall decision making and being a guide for the patient, I always viewed that as something that I could apply to a lot of different aspects of and different roles. So, again, coming back to integrative health, that was something that I was searching for. And I tried so many different things in pharmacy school. While all of my peers, by the time graduation came around, everyone had worked in a pharmacy, whether independent or chain, community. And I was the only person who didn't, because I was searching for other things to try. So I worked for a medical device startup. I went to school in Charleston, and there was a pretty exciting startup community there. So I got involved in that. That was part of what I did. I also got involved in clinical trials. So I was a research associate on one of the first clinical trials looking at cannabis use disorder and how we could treat that. And then I also took a part in a lot of different organizations. I was elected to the national board of the Student National Pharmaceutical Association. So I spent a lot of time doing a lot of different things, really, to just try to figure out and network, and see where I wanted to be as a pharmacist. And I just wasn't finding the exact fit and what I was really looking for. And then when it came to scheduling my appies, I decided that I was going to curate my schedule to be everything that I wanted to try and dabble in. And I always was interested in the integrative preventative side. And I felt like that was something that we could have gone into more. And to me, as a pharmacist, that is the perfect intersection of, what can we do to prevent disease and what can we do to cure disease. So much of that comes back to our daily lifestyle and a lot of things that we can do and incorporate just into our routine that can really make a difference. And so I found an opportunity to go out to LA and do a rotation. And that rotation was with Dr. Pam Tarlow, who is incredible. She's still one of my mentors. I still work with her, even though my residency was years ago. So anyways, I'm jumping ahead. I did an appy rotation with her. And then after that, a few days in, I asked her, is there any way I can train with you? Have you had a resident before? Could I be an apprentice? I had no idea what it would look like. And literally we decided that I would move out to LA after graduation and we would figure it out and we would make it happen because we both really love to work together. And so I moved out and we decided to start the first ever and still only pharmacy residency program, specifically geared to pharmacists, whether they're new pharmacists or pharmacy students that are interested in integrative health. And I always like to define integrative health when I bring it up because it's an intriguingly polarizing area to be in, because a lot of people within integrative health, I would argue, are very on one side or the other. It's very, very 0 to 100. I would argue a lot of people are very, anti-prescription. And then other people on the more conventional side are anti-natural product. And I feel like I'm one of the few pharmacists with Dr. Tarlow who really bridges those two, because with my knowledge in pharmacy and everything and my schooling and my training, I really see the value of all modalities of health and healing. And one of those modalities is prescriptions. And honestly, in the US, most people are on a prescription, at least one. And so I think, especially as a pharmacist, it's really important to understand, okay, yes, all of the, so many patients are on these medications, but so many patients are also very interested in supplements. So how can we do this in an efficacious way and in a safe way for all patients? Because my mentor says, the most dangerous supplement is the one that we don't know about. And so that phrase has resonated with me so much, because I think it's so true. A lot of people look at natural products and just assume, oh, it's natural, it's safe. And while that might be true a lot of the time, it's not true all the time.
Good point.
So yeah, definitely. So it's talking about drug-herb interactions. It's talking about how we can incorporate healthy, diet and exercise and movement and mindfulness and all of that, especially in the new year. That's something that I love to talk about, is how can we incorporate these different strategies. And at the end of the day, we call it patient-centered shared decision-making. And so it's the patient at the center of all the decision, acting as a guide and really demonstrating that there are, if someone comes to me and says, oh, I'm having issues sleeping, we can talk about sleep hygiene, we can talk about nutrition, we can talk about supplements, we can talk about herbs like cannabis. We can talk about, what prescriptions they're on. Maybe that's why they're having some sleep disturbance. I mean, there's so many different aspects. So it's finding out from the patient what is going to work with them for their lifestyle and how that is really going to translate into the benefits and their overall treatment goals. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, I was just wondering how you got into being an integrative health pharmacist. And you definitely explained it. You went through pharmacy school and you trialed things and you found something that you could really sink your teeth into, and you followed it all the way to California from Charleston, South Carolina. And I think that's great when people find their passions and their strengths and their interests, and then they become educated about it and knowledgeable about it and know how to apply it. And I like that you decided that you neither liked nor disliked, either side of that bridge you were talking about. You wanted to be on the bridge. And it really sets a good visual, because I think a lot of us recognize when we feel a bias. There are so many of us that don't know about what you do, about integrative health. And as pharmacists, in the new year, we can make a New Year's resolution to learn a little something about it so that our bias doesn't come from lack of knowledge. So for pharmacists like me who have been out of school for more than 20 years, what's a good way for us to learn a little bit more about integrative health so that we're not in the dark and having a bias against it because of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a lot of different ways, and this is actually leads into one of the reasons why my mentor, Dr. Pam Tarla, and I created an online course specifically to provide a background. We call it Integrative Health 101, because it provides a background on, 10 different modalities. And there's this infographic that I made a long time ago that looks like a circle that's just a rainbow of colors and all these different things that really encapsulate how we view integrative health. And so again, this is everything from nutrition to movement to sleep to supplements to therapeutic aromatherapy to homeopathy, everything in between. And so what we found is that we were getting questions from healthcare professionals, namely physicians and pharmacists, who were interested in learning more about this because they wanted to be a better healthcare professional. And it was honestly very inspiring, because a lot of the questions we got were, this patient entered the pharmacy and they asked me this question, and I honestly don't know how to answer, but I want to know how to answer. Like, these pharmacists and, physicians were so interested in empowering themselves to then empower the patient with this information because they wanted to be able to answer. So that was really incredible. And then also we found that when people were asking and they wanted to learn more, a lot of the follow-up questions were, okay, thanks, like, where can I learn more? We either said, there's self-teaching opportunities, and we'd give them like a list of resources that we were like, okay, you're more than, welcome to go through these resources. This is a lot of how, we started to learn about it, was to delve through the primary literature, go to these certain websites that are free and awesome. Or there are, I don't want to like name drop inappropriately, but there are some platforms that are great and they're really comprehensive of everything you need to know in like a 24-week course that is like thousands of dollars, that gives you a degree in whether it's integrative health, functional medicine, preventative health, any of those. And so what we found is that there really was no in between. And a lot of the complaints that we got from people who were in those, more long programs were, wow, it's all the theory I would ever need to know, but there's no application of that information. So we decided, why don't we create one of the only, and honestly, the only one for pharmacists, definitely, that is all about integrative health in a way that provides you a lot of clinical pearls that you could actually use the next day in the pharmacy. It was also really important to us that it could serve as a resource. So that means that you would have lifetime access to it. And anytime a patient did have a question, you could just open it up really quickly on your computer and you can answer the question right there from that information. And so what we decided to do was create, at the time, it was a live webinar series. So Integrative Health 101 was a live webinar series last summer. So a while ago, I guess 2 summers ago, technically. And so we did that with pharmacists and pharmacy students, and it was an incredible experience. We learned so much out of it on like when we do it, the next time, what we could do better and how we can better serve the people who had these kinds of questions. And so we recorded all of those sessions, and then we recently, in the last 6 months, we uploaded them to an LMS or learning management system. And there now all of that content sits as an online course that's self-paced. And now when people ask those questions, I actually feel like I can say, oh, well, why don't you look here? This is, a fraction of the price, and it's something you can use as a resource. And one of the things we both love doing live content. And so we were like, okay, this is recorded, but let's do a quarterly Q&A for everyone who signs up for it. So we can still have that interaction. And especially with a lot of these types of concepts that are a bit newer for most pharmacists, it's really important that they have someone that they can kind of, ask those questions to and provide that sounding board. So we wanted to be those people too, and not just give the course and then like wave goodbye. So we still wanted to be involved.
I like the live aspect of it. And then you've got the recorded. The self-paced is so important because pharmacists are busy. It's so hard to round us all up at the same time, like a weeknight at 8:00. Some people are working the 2 to 10 shift. So yeah, I get you. And this is a great opportunity. I'm so glad we're talking about this because in the new year, there's always people looking for, to learn something new and broaden their reach and make a better impact on their patients. Can you tell me, is there also CE, Pharmacist CE, associated with this?
So not associated with the course yet, but we have done other CE programs together or separately that are all about integrative health, but they're not. But this course in particular does not have CE yet. You do get a certificate at the end, which is something that pharmacists requested who were in the course previously. So you do get a certificate with it. And we're just really proud of it. And it's something that's come out of years of discussions and, ideation sessions and all this stuff, really trying to figure out how we can best serve, because we both love to educate. And so how can we actually bring that education to answering these questions that are just so important.
Awesome. And you said there's 10 one-hour sessions, correct?
There's 10 one-hour sessions, and then there's also an intro session as well. And so I guess technically it'd be 11 modules. Yes.
Okay. Just, giving listeners an idea of what is this, like what am I getting myself into? Because time management, I don't know about you, but it's an issue. I constantly battle trying to manage my time, but also broaden my horizons,
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of benefits learning about all these things that have to do with integrative health and integrative medicine, because I know I didn't go to school for it. I didn't do a residency like you did for, all this stuff. So that is a great opportunity. Now, can you tell me a little bit about the cost?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So the cost is $333 for the lifetime access to the course. I would love to provide your listeners with a discount code, especially in the new year. It's like the best time to delve into something new, especially when we're starting off and you can use it for the rest of your career.
Absolutely.
And so the code is VOICE, and that is for 20% off.
All right. All caps or?
All caps, yes.
All caps. All right, cool. Thank you. I'm writing this down. I'll put that in the show notes.
Okay,
yeah.
Perfect.
And thank you. Thank you. All right. I understand that you have this great website, and on the website, you actually have another course. So since we're on the topic of online courses, what else do you have?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So a few years ago, I was contacted. This is, I can go into my whole spiel about the importance of networking and like the benefits of networking. And honestly, you never know who you're going to meet, and you never know who knows who. So it's not even just who you meet from that, cold DM, which you should always feel comfortable sending that cold DM. I always tell students that whenever I go lecture at universities. But even just beyond that, whoever you connect with, you don't know who they know. So expanding your network is not just that one message. It's like the message to that one person and who they know. But anyways, I could talk for like a whole hour on how important I think networking is. But I bring that up because someone I had networked with, it was one of his colleagues who was starting an online educational platform and realized that a lot of pharmacists were interested in cannabis, and especially in a lot of different states in the United States, are these rules and regulations that each dispensary needs to have a pharmacist on staff. And so they, like, at that point, the LMS system years ago was realizing, oh wow, we really need to have more education out there for pharmacists, which was incredible. And so and I 100% agree. So the person who I networked with connected me with the co-founder of that platform and asked, would you be willing to help us write the first ever online course for pharmacists who want to learn more about cannabis science and therapeutics and cannabis as medicine overall. So I worked with a physician who's based out of Yale, and he has done all his research. He's kind of a clinical researcher there, and he also lectures. And so we put both of our expertise together, kind of my clinical side of being a pharmacist, and then his kind of research standpoint in PKPD and all of the nitty gritty details that pharmacists do want to know about from my experience. And we put all of that content together and made a multi-module self-paced online course. So that came out a few years ago, and it has been really, really great to hear the feedback and how people have like integrated that into their practice. And that was kind of my first taste of being part of an online course, just someone I happened to meet who, connected me with someone that was in their network. And it really kind of got me excited to see what other courses and what other things I could create. And I also think it gave me the confidence to say that, yes, I can go out there and I can do that too, just like all these other amazing people I've looked up to my entire career.
Congratulations on that course. It sounds like this cannabis course, medical cannabis course, came before the Integrative Health 101.
Yes,
So, yeah, it's kind of like, get one under your belt and then you get a taste for it and you want to do more, right?
Absolutely. And now I have more ideas for other ones too. So more to come.
Awesome. Yes. And hopefully you will be able to join my back to school series in August, where I have pharmacists talk about how they use their voices as educators in the form of online courses. So looking forward to working with you again later this year.
Amazing. Yes.
Yes. Now, both of these courses can be found on your website, right? Would you like to share your website?
Sure. My website is drswathi.com. So doctor spelled out DOCTORSWATHI.
Very good. And this other course, the medical cannabis course, you said it has multiple modules. How many modules? About how long does that one take?
Again, that's self-paced. So what we found just from like looking at stats is that some people are more interested in one particular topic. Maybe they want to look immediately at the drug-herb interactions with cannabis, which I think is what a lot of pharmacists are very interested in. And so that would be like the module that's seen the most, I would say. But you don't have to do them in any specific order. So it's really like it has everything from the history to the benefits and what research is out there. One of the things I love to debunk is that there actually is research out there when it comes to cannabis use, and everything I do is evidence-based. That's really important to me. And so that, there is research, and then also in what capacities has it been used. And I think putting it into the historical context is really important, because I think a lot of people think that cannabis just poofed out of nowhere and then all of a sudden it's everywhere now as of 5 years ago, but that's absolutely not the case.
Okay. Well, it sounds like the difference between the Integrative Health 101 and this one is that Integrative Health 101 was a webinar series that was taped, and they were like 1 hour each. But then this medical cannabis course is almost like slides. Is it slides that are taped? Do you speak over the slides? I mean, what's it like?
Yeah, so it's slides, and in a platform where you can scroll through it. There are educational videos dispersed throughout. There's some interactive components for engagement. So it's a bit more multimedia. Yes.
Okay, very good. And what is the cost of the medical cannabis course?
The medical cannabis course is $399, but we do various discounts throughout the year. And so I'm not sure if it's discounted right now. It might be for the new year, but it's the normal price is $399.
Okay. Well, that you just gave everybody a reason to check your website and see if there's a deal going on in
Yes.
the new year.
Mhm.
Awesome. Well, thank you for talking about how you use your voice as an educator in the form of online courses. Very cool stuff. And we already talked about how you're an advocate for integrative health and cannabis science and therapeutics. Awesome stuff. Now, we're going to get into how you use your voice as an entertainer now. And there's a lot to talk about. Part of it is you are an author, but part of it is also you have appeared on many podcasts and YouTube channels. I don't know where you'd like to start, but if you don't mind, I will choose the writing that you do. Writing is entertainment. I don't think anybody can argue with me on that. Your content is educational, of course, but the content has been published in so many different places: Pharmacy Times, Drug Topics, GoodRx, Mind Body Green, which I'm sorry, I don't know what that is, but I would love for you to talk about what do they publish? Are these ads for products that you endorse, or are these articles on certain topics? Do they approach you? Do you approach them? How does this happen?
So it's really a combination of things. The first aspect really is if they see me on, a podcast or some sort of, YouTube channel or anything, then they reach out to me for an expert quote. And so certain things like for Drug Topics, Pharmacy Times, Mind Body Green, Well and Good, a lot of those platforms. And it's so funny though, because I like feel like I've manifested some of them because I've always envisioned being featured on a lot of these platforms. Like I look up to all of those so much. Like, and for
That's
your
cool.
reference, Mind Body Green and Well and Good are the top two health and wellness platforms with like millions of followers. So to be a pharmacist in integrative health featured on those is just a big deal. I don't know how many other pharmacists they really speak to on the regular. So it's something that I'm really proud of because they're very interested in promoting scientifically based content on health and wellness. And that's something that I really resonate with and something that I look to a lot of their articles and I trust them because a lot of the quotes and everything they get are either, quoted from a, primary literature study or they're quoted from an actual, healthcare professional in the field. So I think that they do a really good job vetting. And so I really feel really blessed and lucky to be a part of that group. And then I've also been featured on some other platforms too, like Forbes Health is another one, and that's also been them reaching out to me as like an expert. And that's if they're looking at different products. They have, I think it's called Forbes Vetted or something like that, where they look at different products, and they've approached me for CBD products to give my perspective on whether I would recommend this particular product and why or why not, kind of a thing. But then also this is kind of like a hacking tip if anyone's listening and interested in being featured. One of the ways that I started, getting my foot in the door is there's something called HARO, HARO. It's Help a Reporter Out. And
Mhm.
it's a free resource that just emails you multiple times a day with, reporters looking for certain quotes from certain, whether they're healthcare professionals or experts in their respective fields. So it could be everything on, like what's going on in astrology in March, all the way to, what type of shovel should I use for the snow, or like your top 5 shovel recommendations. And so it's everything in between. Quite literally, you just have to, browse through it. But it is a free thing that comes straight to your email. And then you can decide, okay, do I want to submit and answer these questions? And then some of the time they respond back and say, yes, we're so excited to have you be a part of it. And other times you might not hear back. But again, it's that same kind of concept that I talk about with students and with new pharmacists that are trying to build their networks. It's, you never know who you're going to meet and what type of relationship you're going to have. So you might as well just respond. And in my experience, the worst that ever has happened is they just don't respond. Like, but I've never had an experience where someone has responded rudely or said, "How dare you," or anything. And I think that that's something that that students are like, "Oh no," like, but what if they respond negatively? And it's like, that's never happened. And I've cold DM'd probably thousands of people at this point.
Wow, you are quite the networker. I know we're going to get off topic for a second, but I think maybe when you were still in residency, that's when we started talking. Remember, you just messaged
Yes.
me and said, "Hey, I want to connect on LinkedIn. And by the way, can we do a Zoom chat?" And I was like, sure, why not?"
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's how sometimes relationships are formed. And you never know, 2 years later, you'll end up on somebody's podcast.
Exactly. You just never know. And you have to just go into the conversation just excited to meet them and not go in with like this ulterior motive or plan on what you're looking for.
Well, I think you gave a really good piece of advice about the HARO, the help a reporter out. That's
Mm-hmm.
something in this new year, 2023, where if somebody's interested in getting published or providing their opinion in a publication, they have that opportunity to do that because somebody may contact them if they offer themselves out there. That's a great opportunity. And thank you for mentioning it. That's something that I don't think anybody has ever mentioned on my podcast.
Oh,
Way to go.
wow. I'm so glad to be the first.
Yeah, it's a great suggestion. I've heard about it on podcasts about podcasting,
Mhm.
because sometimes podcasters are looking for expert opinions from podcasts on a certain topic, thought leaders on a certain topic, but never had a pharmacist mention it. So this is awesome.
I've definitely landed a podcast interview from Haro.
Very cool. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's great. Well, it sounds like you've been featured in digital, articles. So you have been on websites and whatnot. Has anything that you have written been featured in print?
Yeah, so a combination of things. So the first thing is, I've had a chance to be a part of clinical research. I mentioned that a little bit in my story, but from there, like that was that first experience where I was like, wow, a pharmacist can play a real role in clinical research. And at that point, I had the chance to work with a pharmacist who was the PI on that so the principal investigator on that trial was a pharmacist, and that was really inspiring to me. And so I've had a chance to be published in quite a few publications that are peer reviewed, that have the opportunity for that medical oversight, and a lot of them have really been focused in cannabis and the use of cannabis, whether they're in pediatrics or I also had another one that was on the patient perceptions of CBD use, which was really interesting. And that was something that was actually brought on by one of the students when I was a resident, and we were brainstorming topics, and we were like, why don't we ask the people who come into this particular pharmacy where we were to evaluate what they think of CBD, and then also the role of the healthcare professional, namely the pharmacist, because they were pharmacy students, and it was a pharmacy, and we were wondering, how comfortable are people with talking about these types of natural products and supplements with their pharmacists? And we were shocked that it was 6% of people were comfortable mentioning it to their pharmacist. And so
That's
even
not
though,
much.
not much at all. And so even though we were in, California, which everyone from the outside really thinks that that's such a progressive place and such an accepting place for herbs and natural products, I mean, everyone was local to the area, and that was still their overall perception, was that they weren't comfortable with talking to a healthcare professional because they thought they would be judged. They thought they would be put in like a bucket of like, oh, you're one of those people that uses cannabis, with all the stigma out there. So that was really eye-opening. And it's something that, now owning my own CBD botanical wellness brand, it is something that I still am shocked time and time again, going to speaking engagements in California, where people take one look at you and they're like, oh, you're a CBD brand? Like, am I going to get high from this lotion? It's like, no. We actually use 0% THC. So not only is that impossible, but it's also just not the way that it works in terms of its mechanism of action either.
That's why, as a pharmacist and an educator, you have the opportunity to educate people about biases and misconceptions. Thank God you're explaining it. I am no expert in medical cannabis science and therapeutics, but I appreciate people who are. And I know that at some point I need to educate myself better about it, because when people do ask me questions about, CBD or, medical marijuana, I kind of come up empty. I'll have to say, you know what? I'll have to do some research. I appreciate your concern, but I really don't know much about it. And being honest is the best way to go on that. But you do have
Absolutely, yes.
a product. You were talking about a product. Why don't we get into that? And then we'll come back to other things that you have written about. How's that?
Yeah, sure. So I had the luxury, again, all about networking, that, a lot of the time leading up to this point, I was doing a lot of the just messaging people I didn't know with zero mutual connections and everything. And so I started receiving messages. So I received a message from this woman who was in the LA area when I was also there too. And she asked if I would be interested in grabbing a cup of coffee with her, and just learning about what she was doing. So of course I said yes. This was, a year or two before a pandemic, so it was a while ago. And so was able to meet with her in person, learned about the brand she wanted to start, learned about the history of why she was interested in starting a CBD brand, and the current partner that she had in the company, and what they were really looking to build. And even though she's not a healthcare professional, our other co-founder is not a healthcare professional, they both saw the value of education for the consumer. And that really just hit me in a different way, because at that point, I had worked as a consultant or, as a freelancer for a lot of different CBD brands. And none of them really saw the value of education in the same way. They saw it as like a way to make money, not as a way to actually impart knowledge to empower the consumer. It was just such a very different conversation than other ones I had had. And so she initially asked me to join the medical advisory team, and I said, absolutely. And then after that, our conversations just evolved and our relationship grew. And prior to launching products, she asked me, would you be willing to be one of the co-founders and really play a more active role in this company? And so that's how that kind of flourished. And now we launch products. Over 2 years ago, we launched Black Friday 2020. And since then, we've really grown, and it's been an amazing experience to be a part of our team. And on top of that, really, I get to focus on things that I absolutely love and I think that are so fun and innovative. And so one of them is product innovation. And so that's looking at trends, looking at seeing, what real like spaces, what voids are there in the market, and what are patients asking about, what are customers asking about, and what can we do to be innovative and fill that? Instead of, creating another capsule, what other formulation types are there? And then again, being a pharmacist, I think about, okay, there's, ODTs, there's capsules, there's like sublingual formulations. There's so many different things that we can incorporate that are not simply just the conventional capsule or tablet. So I think like being a pharmacist plays a role in product innovation every day, arguably, because I'm thinking about, what prescriptions work, why did they work, and then also what sort of complaints did patients have about them, and then how can we like reinvent a lot of these formulations to make them fun and interesting. Also, to be a CBD brand is just a very interesting place to be right now, because a lot of CBD brands are only CBD and nothing else. And so that was another reason where I said, if I'm going to go venture down this entrepreneurial path, then I really want these products to be almost like a physical manifestation of integrative health. If I'm going to be a part of it, I'm going to be a spokesperson. So to me, again, that's really what can nature provide from like a multifaceted perspective. So we incorporate other herbs, we incorporate, therapeutic aromatherapy when appropriate, and then we also incorporate cannabis. So it's really like a multifaceted product that, yes, we get put in the CBD bucket, so to speak, but we're not just a CBD brand. We're more of like an overall wellness brand that does incorporate CBD and other minor cannabinoids as therapeutic agents, but not the only agents that we select. So so I do product innovation work. I work with our medical advisory team. We have a great group of integrative pharmacists and integrative physicians that I've brought on to help with providing insight on what's been working in their practice, why they would suggest one ingredient over another. And so I work with them. And then so that's one side of my role. The other role really is focused on education. So that's student education, consumer education, and provider education. So on the, consumer education side, one thing that I'm so excited about that I've been working on that is officially live given the new year is an online course specifically for consumers on cannabis science and what they need to know. And this is something that I've been working on for almost 2 years prior to launch. And it is something that I'm so excited about and was every day being like, oh no, we need to launch it. Like another brand is going to get it out first, then we're not going to be first. And no other brand sees the value of that level of time, effort, and energy and education for the consumer. So we still are the first ones to have an online course out created specifically for consumers to learn about this. And I always say we're in the age of the conscious consumer, where consumers want to know this information. They want to know the science, but in a way that's digestible for them. They want to figure out what they're putting in their body and on their body, and they want to do it in like a clean, safe, effective way. And so how can I play a role in that? How can I use my voice? And so in this capacity, it was creating this online course for them. Again, applying a lot of the information that I had learned from creating online courses for healthcare professionals, but then what can I do for a consumer? So that's something I've been working on, or had been working on rather, for quite a while. And then apart from that too, when it comes to student education, very interested in, I think about when I was a student, and I wish that I could have had an internship or an opportunity at a natural products company or a supplement company or a company within the integrative health sphere. And that was not something that I found at the time. The closest was the medical device, which I had such a great time working with that team. But I really wanted to provide more of an opportunity for students to learn about what it means to be an integrative health pharmacist. And so I started an internship program that is mainly for PharmD students. They're post-grad overall. I started off with PharmDs, and then I met these incredible like dental students and nutrition students, and was like, okay, you guys have to be a part of this. So now it's kind of all post-grad students that are interested. And in this internship, they learn a lot about medical writing and professional development, career development. And so I do one-on-one sessions with them, and then they help curate a lot of the online content that we create for the blogs. And so that's one thing that I wish that I had also started, was I wish that I had started having bylines and everything as a student, because after, when I was a resident, I wanted to get into medical writing. And this comes back to what you're asking for written publications and things like that. Like, I wanted to have more of an experience, but I had to pretty much create the experience for myself. And I have a lot of tips if you'd like me to go into those on how I did that. But I wanted it to be easier for the next round of students who are interested in that. And so I provide this opportunity, and I take a cohort of anywhere from like 2 to 6 students, depending on the quality of students that are applying. And also my bandwidth at the time, it honestly is a bandwidth thing, because I want to provide the like one-on-one opportunities and a way for them also to shadow other departments within the company so they can learn about other things going on. Like, I have an intern now who is from New Jersey, and she's really, really interested in project management. So she sits in on all of the project management meetings and everything. So trying to provide students a way to like learn about industry almost, but in a very unconventional kind of way. So that's some of the student education that I do. We work collaboratively with some other CBD brands, other natural product brands, so that we can do a series, like an educational monthly series for all of the interns, talking about different topics within integrative health, whether they are cannabis focused or not. And so that's another thing that's, it's all like really encapsulated in what it means to be an intern and do that level of student education. And then I also do a lot of speaking engagements, whether they are for consumers. I recently spoke at the largest menopause summit and spoke about the use of cannabis in perimenopause and menopause. So that's more on the consumer side. And then I'm speaking at a university in Ohio for a college of pharmacy coming up.
Hey, I'm in Ohio. Is it the University of Toledo by any chance?
It is not. No,
They have a cosmetic science program. Sorry to interrupt, but
that's so great. I'd love to hear that.
I'll definitely have to make contact with whoever does the cosmetic science course and, cue them in that you're a possible speaker that could come to the University of Toledo.
That's amazing. Yeah, because CBD and CBG in particular, the minor cannabinoid, like so much of the research on CBG in particular is incredible for skincare. And so a lot of the beauty products that we're currently working on, we already have one or two on the market, but we are in the midst of product formulation discussions of what else can we bring to the market that's innovative. And CBG is not really in a lot of skincare given the amount of research that's out there so far. So that is something that we are working on. So to bring a topic like that on cannabinoids in skincare would be an amazing opportunity to talk about that with them. So we're Elēment Apothēc, so Elēment Apothec, like apothecary. And we have beauty and wellness products, but really they all fall under this wellness scope of how can we be the best version, the most beautiful version of ourselves from the inside and out. And so we have wellness products that are sublingual tinctures. And so those are oil-based. And so those are really great. We have, more functional products for sleep and for, feeling like zen and focused during the day. And then we also have like our version of like a multivitamin, but in a sublingual tincture form. So a little more innovative approach on like how we would think about a multivitamin, but of course only using botanicals and cannabis or cannabinoids. Then we also have beauty products. And so our beauty products are everything from our face serum, which is one of our hero products that has really incredible innovative formulation that has sea buckthorn oil, which there's not a lot of products that use sea buckthorn oil. And we have the highest percentage of sea buckthorn oil on the market because it's just so incredible. It's a very like luxurious ingredient. It's just so lovely. And it just like makes your skin feel so nice. But we use that and moringa oil, which is incredible for skincare. Then CBD and CBG, obsidian oil, a lot of really incredible oils that come from a lot of ancient healing remedies like Ayurveda, traditional Chinese medicine, and how we can bring all of that together. And so it really is that like ingenuity of modern science and how that meets a lot of these ancient, herbal remedies and things that have been used for thousands of years.
Thank you for explaining that. There's all kinds of people that are looking to try something new in the year 2023. So these are things that they could check out. What is your website for that? This is the company that you co-founded, right?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Great. Congratulations. And what's the website?
Yeah, our website is elementapotec.com. So ELEMENTAPOTHEC.com is our website. And we're so proud that we won the Clean Beauty Awards, the International Clean Beauty Awards for our lotion, our Nourish lotion. And we were a finalist for that face serum. So if you're looking to start with any of them, I would definitely recommend either of those. Or on the wellness side, our other products are amazing too. It just really depends on what you're looking for. And we do have a one-on-one consultation option with our medical team. And so you're more than welcome to send a message. We have an Ask Dr. Swathi portion of the website where you can send a message that way. Or you can just sign up for a one-on-one consultation and you'll either chat with me or someone else on our medical advisory team.
Awesome. You use your voice in so many different ways. This is awesome. And I love how you brought up the public speaking that you do. Is that under your own brand that you do that, or is that on behalf of Elēment Apothec?
So part of it is with Elēment Apothec, and then the other part is kind of like this, where I'm going out and I'm using my voice and speaking and engaging with people through podcasts. So it's not necessarily through the brand, but it's more through my personal brand. So yeah, it depends the context. But a lot of the speaking engagements that I do when it comes to conferences, like I was a keynote at the Cannabis Science Conference, and that really was how I infuse my personal brand with Elēment Apothēc, is I guess how I would answer that.
Awesome. And all of this was in English, I'm sure, but I wanted to bring up, since we're talking about speaking and how you use your voice, I know that you did your undergrad degree in Spanish, right?
I did, yes.
I'm kind of jealous because I speak English and German, and I'll tell you, not many people in this country speak German. I'm in the US, and if I had learned Spanish, I think I would have done myself a favor. So please go ahead and talk about that for a minute if you would like.
Yeah, absolutely. So, to me, entering college, I knew that I wanted to be a healthcare professional. I did not know what kind, but I knew that, like, at least in some capacity, I would be doing that. And I knew that going to a liberal arts school, I went to Carleton College in Minnesota, which was like, I'm such a huge advocate. I literally volunteer for them now, and I go and do speaking engagements. And like when I lived in LA, I would go and do speaking engagements or like go to admissions fairs and like speak to students. But anyways, I just think liberal arts is like the most incredible way to learn, because we didn't have any like set curriculum and you could just take classes in so many things. And so I had actually placed out of the language requirement entering college, but I loved Spanish. So I figured, oh, let me take an upper level my first trimester and see if I like it. And I absolutely loved the classes, the department, the professors. So I just started taking more classes in it and realized that, wow, this could be another tool in my toolbox as a healthcare professional. And given that I go to this college that values, so many different ways of learning and so many different avenues of learning, that why don't I major in Spanish and really become bilingual so that I can use that as a tool as a healthcare professional while still taking all of my pre-health requirements and of course graduating in 4 years. So because I went to Carleton, I was able to do that. And so I took all of my pre-pharmacy requirements by the end of my second year, going into my third year, I knew that, yes, I wanted to be a pharmacist. So curated all my classes so that they'd fit all the pre-health and pre-pharmacy requirements, but also was taking a lot of Spanish every single semester or every single trimester. So with that, I was able to study abroad for one trimester in Madrid, and then I did a semester in Ecuador. And then after that, I also, because I wanted to go abroad again and I absolutely love travel, I found a nonprofit and I was a summer intern in Lima, Peru for a mobile clinic organization. So had a lot of hands-on experience. And actually in that particular context, I worked with Peruvian pharmacists in the pharmacy. So that was like a really great experience too. And that was also one of the first opportunities I really saw pharmacists talking about herbs and working with the homeopath, but then also talking about, the statin they were on. So it was very cool to see them do that. And that provided a lot of insight as to like, wow, okay, if they can do it in Peru, they should be able to do it in every country, including the US. So, and so, it was very like strategic decision. It was like strategy for the future, but also like that's where my passions were and where my passions continue to be. And I've been able to use a lot of that information from the international experiences that I've had to create a lot of projects and a lot of like novel things. And so one of the things that I'm most proud of from pharmacy school is that I founded a bilingual diabetes education program at a free clinic in the Charleston area. And it was the first experience for the Medical University of South Carolina to have a pharmacy specific volunteer program.
Wow.
And so I created that. And now going back to Charleston and seeing that like students, it's completely student run. So I started it and then I kind of like interviewed the next round of people, and it's still going on as the first volunteer program in Charleston through the College of Pharmacy, where students are going in and having one-on-one consultations. So kind of like a way to use your ambulatory care skills, but in an actual context with a patient. And they always try to take at least one student that is bilingual or can speak in Spanish as well. And so it continues to be that bilingual diabetes education kind of program. And now it's just something that I'm so proud of looking back on. And if I look back on so many of the things I've been able to be a part of, the things that really just light me up are things that I'm able to start from scratch. And so whether it's, co-founding the company or this diabetes education program or the residency program, it's so many things that like you can use your voice in so many ways that are just very unexpected. And to me, that's one of the best things about being a pharmacist is that it just provides you so many transferable skills where you can just go out and just conquer the world in any aspect that you want.
I love everything that you talked about. I love how you kind of grouped together all these trailblazing things that you've done with the diabetes clinic that was in South Carolina. And then you created this PGY1 residency in California. And then you co-founded this company, Elēment Apothēc. And then, not to be outdone by your own self, you also have recently authored a book. So tell me about that. What is it called? What inspired you to write it? What is it about?
Yeah, so the book is called The Sacred Feminine. And so this was, again, through the beauty of networking. I networked with these lovely group of women, and we all came together and decided we wanted to create a book on what it means to harness your sacred feminine. And really that means just to be like the best version of yourself. And how you can do that through different modalities and what that can mean from different perspectives. So there's everyone from like a jewelry designer to, me as a healthcare professional in integrative health. There's a woman who is like a meditation coach. And there's really anything you can think of and different ways to approach. Oh, there's also a really, really great entire chapter on nutrition. So there's a lot of different topics and really how they can play into you being the best version of yourself. And it started as like a passion project. And then we ended up finding a publishing company and it became like a real thing. So it started off as an idea and then it happened. Yeah. And that came out over a year ago. Yeah.
Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Where can people find the book?
The book is, you can order it through my website. That would be one way. It's also on Amazon.
Very good. I'll have to look that up myself. And is there the audiobook version? I always have to ask.
There is no audiobook version, but we've been talking about it. It's so funny you bring that up. We've been talking about it for the last 6 months. Like, is there a way we could coordinate? Because there's almost 30 authors. So is there a way we can coordinate everyone submitting their online, audio version? We haven't done it yet, but it's something we definitely want to do. Because I think to be able to hear the words through the people who wrote them, especially each chapter coming from a different woman, I think would be such an unbelievable experience.
Yeah, there's something about the voice and hearing how somebody feels about it as they talk about it. I just want to cheer you on to get that project done if you guys are serious about it. And if you ever have any questions about audiobook production, please let me know because that is my jam.
Oh, yay. Okay. I'll let you know.
Awesome. We have talked about so many ways that you use your voice, and I think now you've given people a book to put on their reading list here in 2023. But also, you have been on all kinds of podcasts and YouTube channels talking about integrative health and cannabis science and therapeutics. Would you like to maybe tell people what is one podcast and one YouTube channel that they have to check out?
So from a YouTube perspective, a lot of the videos that we have posted on the Elēment Apothēc page, I'm really proud of. They're a lot of the frequently asked questions that I receive by email from customers or, from my experience working in the pharmacy or in the clinic. So that would be a great place to start if you are interested in like learning a little bit more about cannabis in very short, like sound bites. I think the longest one is maybe 2 minutes. They're all very short. So they're really easy to just listen to quickly and just, maybe even understand the difference between CBD and THC are like very, very simple, basic things that are really important to know. So I think that would be a great place to start for delving into, or maybe even like dipping your feet into a little bit of what it means to look at cannabis as medicine. That would be my first place to start. And then, oh, wow. I mean, I love listening to podcasts. So I don't even know which one I would pick, because I'm always changing it up and switching it up. And I love professional development podcasts. I love personal development podcasts. It just depends on what phase I'm currently in. I also really like, on the side, like I'm really passionate about architecture and urban design. I just think it's so fascinating. And so I love maybe this a little bit of the outside of the realm of what you expected to get as an answer, but I love the podcast 99PI. So it's 99% invisible. So it's like all the things that we don't notice about daily life. And it delves into a lot of the aspects on, why they have, covering at bus stops, or maybe why they don't, and in certain places. And then, the history of air conditioning, that's one of my favorite episodes. So it's just like so many things. And like the history of air conditioning has to do with like a political election going on that year and snowbirds. And it's fascinating. It's just like so many of the things that we don't think twice about, that we're like, oh, of course, this thing that we're just going to flip the switch right now. And we don't really even think about what it took to get to that point. So anyways, and also that, I guess that goes along with too, like the How I Built This by Guy Raz, I find really inspiring. So it's, I guess the history and the background of how things came to be in different capacities.
Very good. Well, thank you for sharing that. I never know what people are going to say when I ask them about, a book that they might recommend, or a podcast, or a YouTube channel. I sometimes expect them to say, listen to this podcast because I was on it, or go check out this YouTube channel because I was on that. But hey, your answers are great. And I love that you talked about the YouTube channel for Elēment Apothēc, because I didn't even know about that. As I was kind of doing my research on you, I didn't check that out. So I will check that out, because again, in the year 2023 here, I need to learn more about cannabis science and therapeutics, because I just am starting from zero. And I would like to know more. And you said that Elēment Apothēc has some online coursework. I assume that's free, right?
So it is free if you participate in a subscription of our products, but then we are selling it at a low price for if you want to buy it separately. But I think most of the people so far that have engaged with it are customers that have subscriptions. So it's meant to be a resource there. And a way that, if you wanted to learn more, then that is a way that we can provide that insight. But at least from my experience, most people do want to know more. They're just trying to find the right resource and like the right, group or human or whatever to like actually trust. And I think with the sea of misinformation when it comes to cannabis and natural products, and so many influencers out there that are paid to say XYZ things, I think a lot of people are just really not sure where to look, but they want to know the info.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting that separate from buying the products, you can buy the information, because that just shows how invested you are in educating people so that they'll feel comfortable with your products and they'll feel like it's going to work for them.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah, very cool. Boy, we have covered a lot, my friend. Dr. Swathi, is there anything else you'd like to talk about as we wrap this up?
No, not at all. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, this was so nice. And if anyone else has any questions or anything or wants to learn more, please do not hesitate to reach out.
Absolutely. And I will put your LinkedIn link in the show notes, because I think you are a great resource just to know. And in the theme of networking that you brought up earlier, let's network, let's connect.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, Dr. Swathi, thank you so much for being here on the Pharmacist Voice podcast. You take care.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye.
2 comments as I wrap up this episode. First, if learning something new is on your to-do list this year, check out Dr. Swathi's online courses, Integrative Health 101 and Cannabis Science and Therapeutics for Pharmacists. Second, I want to encourage you to use your voice in 2023. What are you passionate about? Be inspired by Dr. Swathi to use your voice to do the things that you are passionate about too. Thank you for listening to episode 195 of the Pharmacist Voice podcast. Please visit thepharmacistvoice.com to read the show notes. What's in the show notes today? There are lots of links. There's a link to Elēment Apothēc. There's also a link to Dr. Swathi's personal website, which is drswathi.com. There's a link to Integrative Health 101, the first online course that was mentioned today, Cannabis Science and Therapeutics for Pharmacists, the second online course that was mentioned today, social media links for both Elēment Apothēc and Dr. Swathi, my social media links, a link to the University of Toledo's Cosmetic Science and Formulation Design program, and more. I can't forget about my alma mater, the University of Toledo. Now, if you know someone who would like this episode or needs to hear it, please share it with them. And if you like this podcast, please subscribe to or follow the Pharmacist Voice podcast on your favorite podcast player and YouTube to get each new episode right when it comes out. Thanks again for listening. I'll be back next Friday, January 20th, with a solo episode. Not just any episode. I will be celebrating 3 years in podcasting. Thanks again for listening. I'll talk to you next week.